Thank you for watching Conscious Consumer Network. The live stream broadcast is free to view. You can pause and rewind live broadcasts to catch up, or view shows at a later date by accessing our free archives of all shows. Check out our broadcast guide to see what's on. You can show your support by donating to our network support fund. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or subscribe to the monthly newsletter for updates. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
If someone offered you a passport to paradise, would you take it? A ticket to a world so perfect, you'd never want to leave.
You'll get the sexiest electric car, for example. You'll get a very sexy house.
There's a lot of people out here dreaming about Utopia because it's a perfect place to realize dreams.
The idea of a perfect world has always fascinated us. But what does it mean?
Utopia to me means a diverse society that's egalitarian and that gives opportunities to everyone.
Somewhere where there's nice clean sand, nice clean water, somewhere where it's nice all the time.
English philosopher Thomas More gave that perfect place a name, Utopia. A free society, a peaceful society. A far cry from the warring Europe of his 16th century reality. This utopian prophet believed perfection required a massive change of attitudes.
None are quite hopeless of recovering their freedom, since by their obedience and patience, and by giving good grounds to believe that they will change their manner of life for the future, they may expect at last to obtain their liberty.
Many have tried to find their utopia, attempting to live in ways free from the constraints of modern-day society, free from depression, free from war and political upheaval, a world where life is perfect.
I think people do want an improved society. I think people do want the idea of a perfect place. I'm just not sure that now they're willing to work for it.
Utopian societies usually fail, always fail. Human nature.
Could it be that to find our perfect world, we have to look outside the box?
It's not a crazy idea. This is a prospect about how we're going to live in the future.
What will our future world be like? Will we find utopia? Would we like it? Would we really want to stay in a perfect world?
Hi guys, I'm Arthur.
Hello, I am Dustin.
Hi, I'm Martin.
Hi, and I'm Nathaniel, and this is Youth on Subjects of the World.
So today the topic is utopia versus dystopia, and it's particularly interesting to me because so many people nowadays, I feel like, focus on a dystopian world, and they kind of see the world that we're living in now as dystopian. And there's a lot of movies that are made, like Hunger Games and that Maze Runner movie, I think, that focuses on like an apocalyptic type of world that has this, society, this kind of like secret society, or there's like a big gap between the higher classes and the lower classes type of thing. But I don't see a whole lot about what a utopia would look like what a true utopia actually looks like. Not like a secretive, there's truly like these dark puppeteers controlling everything and everything appears to be peaceful, but it's really not type of utopia. I mean like an actual utopia where it's like peace on earth type of thing. So I'm wondering what everyone kind of thinks about that.
Well, should we start with like the Latin roots in dystopia and utopia? Like with dystopia, the Latin root is dis, which means ill, bad, or wretched.
Sure. I don't know much about that aspect of it, but...
Okay, then.
I think utopia is interesting because really, I think everyone's definition of a utopia is different. One true utopia probably would never exist, and it would be really hard to write about because one person's utopia could be another person's dystopia and vice versa. So like one true utopia where everything is perfect, I don't really know what that would look like. I mean, an example that's used a lot is Atlantis, like a utopian society where there's no poverty and stuff like that, but even that isn't really like utopia because even if there's like no poverty, there's still other problems.
I find it follows the heaven paradox where like the way heaven is described in most books is really nice if you live in like 13th century England, but in modern times that sounds like, wow, that sounds like they get really boring really quickly because we know more about people's minds and know that we like desire conflict. And the same thing happened in the Matrix, where the original Matrix was a sort of utopian society and humankind just didn't believe it so hard that a bunch of them died because we are just built upon like we desire both levels of conflict and resolution of peace and chaos. Like we're very balanced beings, and a utopia where everything is perfect is not something that we can really have or really desire.
So in a perfect society, wouldn't there be that balance of positive and negative? Because when there's only positive, then we get this image of like, like the stereotypical like heaven, like clouds and, everyone's just like kind and peaceful, but there's that other aspect of humanity that's like, yeah, and they just want to like destroy things, and they just want to destroy things
and listen to Megadeth.
Yeah, go crazy
with a baseball bat.
So I think from my perspective, a utopia would be a balance between the positive and negative, the ebb and flow, like the compression and the expansion of everything that goes on in our inner world. There's no repression whatsoever.
Well, I think it's what Martin said earlier, which is one person's utopia could be another person's dystopia. I mean, like, what I think is the perfect balance of good and evil in the world could be very different than what you believe. And like modern times right now, we have a lot of problems in society and governments are choosing very crazy decisions, but we also have like amazing health benefits and people are living longer than they've ever have before. So there is a much balance, and like technology has grown to such an amazing rate. So like if you're someone who doesn't really care about politics but really cares about technology, right now is a really great time. So it really depends on where you stand in there. And I think that's the problem, is just how different each human is. Like, how do you create a utopia for everyone when everyone is so different?
Yeah, like what you were talking about sort of, Arthur, is like there will always be another human who disagrees with you. So a sort of utopian society would have to combat that and sort of keep it balanced, as you all said earlier.
Yeah, but there could also be forms of factions, like people who think certain things, because there's going to be people who think not exactly the same as you, but similar enough to you that you could agree on a society to create small, little societies of people who believe this way to have little utopias.
But then how would it how would it relate to the larger world at whole? Like,
that would be the problem with it.
I think with disagreements, I think disagreeing with one another it can be beneficial because it gives you it can give you criticism and it can give you tension, so that way you can grow from it and like figure out how to blend different like perspectives on something. But in a utopia, I don't think there would be any violence. There would be disagreements, but no violence. No physically trying to control other people. Like, you basically let people do what they want to do. You can disagree with whoever you want to disagree with, but you're not going to, basically freedom of speech.
So would it be like an anarchy then? Like in the Anarchy podcast, Martin and Arthur were talking about how everyone would get a say in it. Like like everyone would get a say. Like everyone would meet and everyone would raise their hand if they wanted something this way and if someone wanted it this way. And Arthur, you used an example, like you said, say if my mother got a dog and I don't like dogs, or I don't know if that's what you said, but anyway, you said if she gets a dog, then we have to lay down some rules, like you can have a dog, but I don't want it anywhere near me. So would a utopia basically be like that, like an anarchy society?
Wait, can someone tell the dog story in like further detail?
Arthur can, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in my example is a cat, because currently we have a cat in the house that I don't really like having a cat in my house, but my mom likes a cat, so we have a cat in the house. And some of the rules are, like, I'm allergic to cats, so we had to get a cat that is hypoallergenic. And also, like, I don't want the litter box being right outside my bedroom. So, like, there's certain things of like that have to crop up where, like, of compromise.
Yeah, I think in some situations it's important to compromise because you don't want people to like hold resentment towards each other. But also you have to think, if you have a need to have a cat, maybe that need can be fulfilled in another way if you accept that. But if you're attached to the image of having a cat in your home that, you know, kind of lives with you, then it could cause issues because you see it as only happening in one way, whereas you could have a friend who has like 50 cats that you see every week, and then you get your cat fix type of thing. So it's kind of like, I feel like it's a bit of personal discretion on what needs to be compromised and that sort of thing.
But to compromise would not make most people don't like compromising, so it would not be a utopia. Because what I know, I might be wrong about this, but isn't a definition of a utopia a society where everyone's happy and like everything's pretty much perfect?
Well, what is that definition of perfect? I think it is.
That's the problem. Like, there is no definition of perfect. You can't have a perfect society if people have to compromise. But, like, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I think possibly. Like, do you mean that physically there's never going to be physically...
I'm sorry.
Physically, no one is going to be able to have all of their needs met, because, or maybe not their needs, but their wants, because we have to share a space somehow. So like that part of the utopia is never going to be fulfilled because it's just impossible with everyone's differences. But the inner world of each human being, I think, can be perfect. Not the outer world, but the inner world.
I want to go back a little second because we were talking about like sort of an anarchy society where we have different factions that kind of agree with each other. And I was reminded very much, since we were talking earlier about dystopias like Hunger Games or the Maze Runner series, and there actually is a series out there that is in the young adult dystopia future called Divergent, which is all about basically a world of different factions and the problems that putting humans into little boxes is like, what if someone is quote unquote divergent and going into different ones? So I thought the connection there was a little interesting, where that probably a utopia where we all put everyone in their proper place where they got to be them is the problem of humans aren't very good at fitting into boxes very well, even though humans like fitting things into boxes a lot.
Yeah, like we all have our individual strengths and what we're naturally inclined to do. Like for me, like the way that my body is built, like I'm a good runner, but I'm not necessarily that strong. So, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to get strong. It just means that like I can strengthen my natural strengths, but also work on my weaknesses. That doesn't mean that I'm ever going to be as strong as people that are naturally strong, but I can still work on those parts of myself to give myself a different perspective, I guess. So yeah, that Divergent movie is a lot about like there was this upheaval because people didn't want to be only using their strengths. They wanted to kind of use everything.
Yeah, it's how we become whole people, by not just focusing on one aspect of ourselves and hammering that until we're done. It's trying different things about like creating a perfect circle of who we are.
Yeah, and maybe we need to do that for a little while to figure out ourselves and what we like. And we may end up coming back to our natural strengths and then like really pushing that, and we get really good at it. But if we don't see the contrast of what else is out there, what else can I do, then we may not appreciate our strengths as much. So what does a dystopia look like?
Well, a dystopia can come in different forms, like the Hunger Games, for instance, which is like places are, well, they don't really describe the world as a whole, but they do describe that there are now 12 districts that all bow down to a capital. But there are other dystopias where, like the Legend series, which is by Marie Lu, which talks about how a great flood floods the globe in the year 2050, and the United States is split into two, the Republic of America on the West Coast and the colonies on the East Coast. And they've been in conflict since they began. So there's many different varieties of dystopias.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to two big ones, though, which is either what the Hunger Games style, which is there's an overpowering government that kind of controls everything and creates maybe for the upper class a very nice environment, but for a lot of the lower class people a very terrible environment and dystopia for them to live in. And the other one is the one you talked about with the two Americas, or the Mad Max version, which is an apocalyptic event has taken place, and now the sort of scrounges of that world have come up and created a dystopia, because it's the only thing that I can like salvage of the past world. So those are the two we're dealing with.
I think I think what a utopia versus a dystopia would look like if it were the human body. A dystopia would look like the brain is in charge, and so when we're really up in our heads, we tend to forget about the rest of our bodies, and so we may end up sitting all day and staring at a computer because it's mentally stimulating, but then our bodies they get weak and frail, and they begin to have problems and stuff. But in a utopia, it's the brain, which could be like a one world government type of thing. I know some people think that's like, a conspiracy theory, and that would be like the ultimate dystopia. But on the other hand, it could be a utopia where the brain makes all the decisions, and it sends all the resources to every other part of the world, or the body, and then the body gives it feedback. Like, okay, this hurts. I need to exercise this. Okay, I need to do this. So we would all be, the government would be like the brain type of thing, but then everyone else in the world would be a part of the body. And we would all give feedback to that brain so that we could function more efficiently as an entire planet. And then we move on to other planets, and then we do the same thing there.
So kind of like the Star Trek universe, or a little different, because I know of a book that is almost exactly like what you just said. It's called Scythe, and instead of like a brain, it's a computer that creates a worldwide society, and death is cured. So yeah, and there's only a few people who can actually kill people forever. They're called scythes, and they go around and kill people who are willing to be killed, who are just done with life, or those who are unwilling to be killed. So
yeah, that brings up another problem with like a utopia. What you just described with like a brain that like a full, like a world kind of like government thing is like interesting, and it might work, but I don't understand, like, how would you ever get to a point where that would be possible? Or are we not talking about like realistic things that could actually happen, or are we talking about like in a perfect world they would be great if this happened?
Yeah, I agree, because the problem is our brain can like decide to work together with itself, but can a bunch of different humans that have different brains? I mean, also realistically, our brain can't even decide to work together with itself. So most of the time. So how can we figure out to have like an entire government's worth of people work together to communicate with this body properly?
Well, I think one big problem that happens in our brains and like in our thought process is that we tend to put moral judgments on how we're feeling and on what we do. So how that would look with the entire world is that, say your hips are tight and like from too much sitting, and so you want to get up because you feel like you need to do something, and then you just like start humping the air like to loosen up the hips, and like your brain might put a moral judgment on that and think, okay, you're kind of having sex with the air here, what are you doing, like but it feels good, and it feels good to like loosen up your hips and to do something that's very natural to us. So like the government if the government says that like these people deserve to live in poverty because, you know, they're not productive members of society or they got addicted to something at some point and ruined their life, that's a moral judgment, and that's not helping to get people back on their feet as functioning members of society and to be happy people. So I think that's one way that our brain and the government can reach peace with itself. You don't have to turn off your brain. You direct I see the brain as like, it's something that just keeps going and you cannot stop it. You cannot repress it. It'll keep going in one way or another. You may build a dam, but you may build a dam around a certain thought that you have, like, I'm bad at school. Like I'm bad at whatever, sitting in the classroom, and you're just like, I'm bad. And so you begin to put a dam right there, but your thoughts still go in another direction. And so instead of building dams, I think we learn to control our thoughts. We learn to direct our thoughts, because it's just going to keep going. So by the way that we can direct our thoughts is by keep feeding it with the things that we want to think about. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have a thought that comes up that you're like, why the hell did I just think that? Like but again, that's like placing a moral judgment on it. So if you keep thinking thoughts like, yeah, I want to exercise, like I feel really good when I exercise, I feel really good when I climb trees, I feel really good when I paint and play music, like just keep thinking of that stuff, and that's changing the direction of your thoughts. So I don't know what the original point of that was.
Yeah, I don't understand how that relates to what we were talking about. Like, that's good and all for like yourself as a human, but then again, we're talking about a bunch of different people with different thoughts and different things that they feel are important, trying to make decisions. And
I don't know. I think in a utopian society, we should all just climb trees.
Yes.
I think that was your point right there.
Like, yeah, no buildings, just everywhere is trees. We're all strapped with like rock climbing equipment all the time, and we're just climbing constantly, like stacks and stacks of trees on each other, just like all day, every day.
So back to our ancestral roots, become primates again.
So I guess my point was, if like the more humans adapt that way of thinking, like less guilting themselves for feeling certain ways, like ultimately that will be how people live in a utopian society, is by being at peace with their thoughts instead of condemning them.
But some people don't want to be at peace with their thoughts. Like, some people thrive in thinking uncomfortable thoughts, like being angry and being sad. Like, that's a very human part of life. And even if you don't want to think about it, there's some people who, like, some of the greatest like paintings and like songs have been created in times of anger and sadness. And like, think just because like it doesn't feel comfortable in the moment to think about a sad thing doesn't mean it's not ultimately good for yourself. And being at peace with your thoughts is like, it's not realistic to me to accomplish, because it's not something that's easy to do. Like, it's easy to do in the moment, but overall to make your entire life be peaceful with, like, just completely be at one with yourself doesn't work.
I don't know if he's exactly saying though that you never feel anger or anything. I don't think we're trying to be Buddhist monks over here. In fact, like, being at peace with your own thoughts means to let yourself be angry, I think, because you're not putting, like, if I have an angry thought, then I suppress that angry thought, and I'm just like, no, Arthur, that's bad. You shouldn't feel angry. You shouldn't feel that way. That's bad emotion. You are bad for feeling that way. Then I just repress it, and then I feel a very negative way instead of releasing that anger in a very positive way, like
Okay, I see what you're saying.
What?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so I think we could try and think of that mentality as even with all negative emotions. Like Indiana Jones, The Temple of Doom was made because Steven Spielberg was going through a divorce, and he was just feeling like real depressed and like in a bad mood all the time. So he made the darkest of the Indiana Jones series. So like if we feel angry, don't repress it until you get so angry that you have to like hurt another human being. Just, you know, make a pretty good sequel to a great film.
And I think as humans, we often feel like we can't let out that anger because we're going to offend someone. We're going to make someone else uncomfortable. So, it's something that I struggle with, and I think like probably everyone struggles with, is how do you express yourself without destroying relationships? And I think you have to risk destroying relationships. And if they do end up getting destroyed, then they fulfilled their purpose in a way, and they don't have to continue going on. But yeah, like figuring out how to express your sadness, your anger, your pain when you feel rejected by the girl that you like or whatever. Like, instead of being like, no, like I shouldn't feel this way, just be like, I feel this way, I suck, I'm just gonna kind of like sulk for a while and just like live that for a little while, you know, and be.
Although you don't suck, because you sucking is.
I said that by accident. But yeah, just like sulk around for a while and feel that, because that pain really leads to like the greatest art, I feel like. Like artists.
Okay, I understand what you're saying now, but like, what were we talking about again that brought this up?
Dystopia?
Yeah, but we were like, I'm not trying to make a joke. Like, seriously, what there was something we were talking about, like with the brain and like arms and legs.
I guess what makes a functioning human being as well as a functioning world, or like a functioning utopia. And it really comes down to the individual, how the individual, it like starts from your inner world, it goes to your friends and your family, then it goes to your community, then it goes to the whole world. Being at peace with thoughts.
People always seem really happy in dystopia because they've got a goal to be doing. Like, I mean, or maybe it's just exciting to watch and not actually that exciting to be in, but like in a dystopia, at least like the classic ones we've seen, like people always have like shit to do, and it's that kind of primal survival instinct that you don't have to worry so much about your deep like emotions in your head. You just got to focus on surviving and being taken care of who you care about.
Yeah, we as humans, we can get something done if we all have an objective in mind. We can all unite together. Like if we had one common enemy, say like an alien species who's trying to kill us or something like that, or a disease, which we've been pretty successful at, like with parasites. But anyway, if we have one common enemy, then the world could unite and we would all be focused on getting rid of that enemy. But the enemy would have to be able to hold us off for a really long time in order for us to like keep continuing a sort of utopian society where we all are united under one banner and trying to destroy this enemy.
Yeah, people who are usually fighting each other when faced with an even greater enemy usually end up banding together to combat that. And they can either go their separate ways after that, or perhaps they can sort of, hopefully, in that fight, they kind of rub off on each other and they see each other's differences and similarities, and they both become better people because of that. Kind of like Barry Allen and Captain Cold in season 2 of The Flash, where he became a good guy. So we should just like follow that, and when we work together, not try to forget the lessons we learned from other people, and actually just like learn from them as we're fighting this hypothetical third force.
I think that is one way to unite. Like nowadays, I'd consider it global warming to be that kind of threat. But it's also when our survival is at stake, that kind of overrides any other thing that we have. That like comes first on the chain of command of human instincts. So it's like once we move up from that link in the chain and we don't have an outside threat, like, well, not really now because, yeah, like the planet, we risk kind of destroying ourselves. But when survival is out of the picture, like, how do people get along? How do people resolve their differences?
Yeah, like going from like survival mode, like, okay, we got this plan, we got like thinking about only survival, like what happens afterwards, like you've accomplished your goal of survival. Now what do? Like, what can we do to ensure long-term survival and make the world and society ultimately better?
Yeah, like with after World War II and before the Cold War, we're just like, well, what do we do now? So then after that, the Cold War started, which I'm not like saying that we deliberately targeted the Soviet Union because we're like, well, guess we should target something else now. It's just that it sort of feels like that. Like after World War II, we're just like, well, we need another common enemy. Why not communism? So.
Yeah, well, I mean, the best idea is that, like I said, when you work with your enemy, you learn from that mistake, or you learn from that working together and both grow as people and can continue the things you've learned when you were working together to that foe, and like remember the compromises you made, the reason that you're working together with this person. Like there's something about them that makes you be able to work together at all under this threat, and remember those two things even when there's not that impending doom upon you. But it's hard to remember that when you're not having an existential threat that's trying to kill you.
I think we're kind of like little children where we want to keep testing our boundaries. Like, how far can I, like, how much can I poke this person until they get annoyed and like slap me or push me away or something? And you just like keep going back and doing it. And eventually you get slapped. But I feel like we're kind of there right now. We keep looking for like a new enemy, a new threat. And eventually humanity as a whole is going to get slapped and we're going to be like, oh, okay, this hurts. Let's actually change something. And that's one way to learn. And I don't know if that's the only way to learn though. I kind of feel like it is, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I like to, sometimes when I watch the news, I sometimes like to think of the world, like all the countries in the world in one big middle school or something like that. Like you got your jocks over there, like sort of like the U.S. being...
I'd watch this show.
Yep.
Wait, there's a show on that? Like, I'm being totally serious. I've been like, there should be like an anime or something like that, like with all the countries in the world. Just like,
there's animes of the countries of the world. I forget what it's called. It's like
there's one called Country Balls, which is just circles with the country flags in it, and it just makes political jokes. Which
there's that, but there's actually an anime about like all the countries.
Really?
I don't know if they're at a high school, but they're kind of like high school characters. But yeah, okay. So who would be the nerds or the cheerleaders or the
well, I sort of see North Korea as being the shady kid at the table by himself, just collecting like spitballs or something, just like doing like throwing them really close to people and just like so yeah.
Japan would be the like weird art kid that sits in the corner, just like draws all this weird tentacle stuff. Just kidding.
Yeah, like the jocks are like, we don't like that kid until we need his help with our computers.
Yeah, like I would see Russia and the U.S. as like, the Russian Federation and the United States as like two jocks, but they're like competing over something like you normally see in some movies, just like two people competing for the girl or something like that.
Can the girl be Britain?
I can see that. I can see that happening. Or with Germany and Russia during World War II, I would see Poland as being the girl. Like I want this girl. No, I want this girl. Then all right, you take one half. I'll take the other.
Now, what's the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Would that be like Russia trying to make friends with the new kid, but the U.S. is like, no, stop it.
Friend.
And maybe
I'd live in that utopia.
Maybe the Middle East. The Middle East would be like the really smart kid that lost their way at some point and they just like turned violent, but they have all like this like hidden knowledge. And India could be the gymnastic person.
What would Africa be? Like there's so many African countries and there's more popping up with all the civil wars that have happened lately. But like what would they be?
I think Australia would be like, why is this 24-year-old still in high school and drinking so much?
I would see Britain as that, just like, I've been here longer than all of you. I haven't had any, like, splitting wars like you, France, or revolutions. I'm just here.
Yep, Britain has absolutely had no wars splitting it up at all.
No.
British Empire the sun will never set in the British Empire.
No.
What would Mexico be?
Well, that's kind of challenging as, like, the opinion has changed so quickly on Mexico. Well, it has always stayed the same throughout history on Mexican immigrants and Mexicans in general. But I'm not really sure. It's just...
What country do you think is the closest to Utopia right now?
I'd have to say Switzerland because they've been neutral since 1815, and they've also taken steps to combat the drug crisis, or in a way that's not at all like the American way, and it's very effective. Like people who are addicted to like heroin, they have special centers where they have special centers where they have clean needles and clean injection rooms, and they in the Swiss, like they have access to doctors just in case something happens, and then they're sort of pushed, well, once they get off the addiction, they're pushed back into society, and not like the American, well, not like other ways where like if you were a drug addict, like you're sort of down on the bottom, but in Switzerland, like you're just pushed back out, like here you go, and they're just
like the big plus.
Yeah, and more jobs are created because of that, and a lot more people are employed. So yeah, I feel Switzerland would be like one of the closest to utopia right now.
I have something I want to comment about that, but I'd like to know, Martin, what do you guys think is like the closest to a utopia right now?
Completely agree with Nathaniel. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Any country that has like free healthcare and free higher education, supported by everyone at a whole through taxes, I think that is like a a very basic form of utopia on how it would look like outwardly. Everyone basically working together to make sure everyone's healthy and educated.
Yeah, like the European Union, for example, which was created to sort of bring economic prosperity throughout Europe and to like connect Europe as a whole, which that's what I feel you're basically saying. You can disagree with me, but
Well, also the European Union was also to make sure that World War III didn't happen. Like, hey, this keeps happening mostly in Europe. Maybe we should figure something out about this.
yeah, and also the Geneva Conventions, which happened after to prevent like, yeah, we can't have biological weapons. We can't like do this. You can't target certain things. You can't torture soldiers certain ways, which really has brought us closer to world peace, which it's we're kind of getting off topic, which not really, but
yeah. But so one thing that I think is sort of the difference between like Switzerland and the U.S., which has a lot of conflict, which is all like the immigrants that we have and all the different cultures. Like Switzerland is very much like, I mean, I haven't personally been there and I don't been there, but they're very much a lot of the same people with the same beliefs. While America is as we like to call ourselves, a melting pot. And the reverse of that is that you get a lot of people with a lot of very different ideas, and we could try to have that way of like solving our drug problem through that way, which I agree with it, and I think that'd be a great way. But there's other people who disagree with that and don't think it'll work, and you have to accommodate everyone. And when you have a place that is celebrated for having different people with different ideas coming together from different cultures, you get the benefit of so many different experiences to create art and to create technology, but you also have the problem of all those different ideas getting into politics and all this disagreement because we're such different people. So the benefit of that the Swiss have is that they are very like together in their goals. But I wonder if there's a downside to that, like with regards, like maybe in ideas we are together, but maybe in like technology or like arts, we're better than them. I'd hope so. I hope there's like a benefit to what we're doing here, because there's a lot of downsides.
Think about switching systems, like go from a constitutional republic to an actual democracy.
I mean, if I didn't think there'd be a benefit, I'd probably move to Switzerland right now. It's a cool country. I'd have to learn another language, though.
Yeah, but Nowadays, most people, well, a lot of people speak English in other countries.
Germany, if you're American and you learn, you can go to college for free. Fun fact, really do.
When I went to Wales last year with Lainey and Miro and Project World School, there was a woman there who was helping us on the farm who comes from Denmark. And in Denmark, your higher education is paid for. So, but she said that because of that, there's almost a pressure on people to take advantage of that. And so even in that system, there's like sometimes a moral judgment on that, like you should be doing this because, you know, we're like everyone's paying for it, so do it. But you may not want to, you know? So it doesn't necessarily, a utopia doesn't necessarily look like higher education and health and whatnot, rather than really coming from your own inner world and how you treat yourself and how you treat others around you.
Okay, on that note, do we want to go to break?
Sure.
Okay, let's go to break.
I'm curious, what's your definition of a perfect world? Huh, no answers. Let's see. When everyone can understand that everyone are humans and we should be treated with respect and one race is not superior than another. Whenever one can get along and help and benefit others instead of being selfish and only caring for themselves, and when everyone can be happy and live their dreams, and when there is help for murderers and molesters, etc. I'll tell you what's not perfect. This grammar. A pleasurable job to where I can make lots of money. This world is already perfect, where there is no hate, poverty, or sickness. People programmed to be a perfect animal. What? No Republicans. Huh? When there are no human beings left? Alright, this is getting out of hand. There are an estimate of 7 billion people in the world today. Each a unique individual, not all under the same circumstances. There are roughly 6,500 spoken languages in the world, and thousands of different cultures, different backgrounds. Each face has different thoughts, different problems, different solutions. So what happens when we ask, what does a perfect world look like to you? What is your utopia? While one's perfect world involves helping the needy, another could define it with selfish intentions. One without sickness, another filled with drugs. How can we create the perfect world? In Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, Guy Montag is a fireman living in a futuristic utopian society. Unlike our firemen, the firemen in Guy's world start fires rather than putting them out. They actively look for books and burn them to ashes because the people in this society don't read books or think independently. Instead, they are focused on their entertainment by watching TV or listening to the radio. The government decided to ban books because they believed they contained arguments and conflicts. So instead of conflicting ideas, the government wanted to streamline thinking so that everyone thought the same way. So that meant no more books, no more free thinking, nothing else but what the government provided, because they thought that was the perfect society. In Lois Lowry's The Giver, Jonas lives in a futuristic society that has eliminated all pain, fear, war, and hatred. The society has also eliminated the ability to choose because they place people into jobs that they see fit. Jonas turns 12 and is placed into a job unlike any of the other kids. His job is to replace the old receiver, also known as the giver, and become the new receiver, a position that holds memories of the past. Jonas soon experiences emotions such as love and pain, and also sees color. He soon realizes that his community feels no sense of emotion, color, feeling, or remorse. But on the other hand, the government is doing this to prevent war and to keep peace. Is this the perfect world? Aldous Huxley's Brave New World is also about a futuristic society that tries to create a perfect community where everyone is happy by using science to mass produce people and conditioning them to do the jobs the government made them to do. Marriage and pregnancy are seen as unnecessary and a waste of time, as well as books and nature. The government got rid of all religion and all emotion and replaced those things with sex and drugs to keep people happy and oblivious to the world around them. Unlike the other books, this book involves emotion because they have sex, but they never really experience love. All for what? To protect them? A bookless world, a colorless world, a loveless world. These books share one common theme: the restriction of knowledge. The knowledge of the past, emotions, nature, all things that promote free thinking and individuality. Knowledge is power. It's the differences and failures that make us human. And a utopia's goal is to get rid of those key factors of our humanity. What meaning would life have if there were no obstacles to conquer, no personal victories that people would admire? Yes, our world isn't perfect, whatever perfect means, and probably never will be. But I can't help to think that the imperfections of the world make it perfect. It's the perfect paradox. So I challenge you today, observe the imperfections around you and say, you're perfect.
Yes. So, welcome back, guys. I wanted to show you my idea of what a utopia would be. So, I had all my friends sing, and that rhymes. Or it says me twice. When we're back, we want to talk about personal utopias. So, we can go down the line, ending with me, because I am terrified of going first. We're gonna go and say what our personal utopia would be. Who wants to start?
I'll go. So, my personal utopia, I really don't know, to be completely honest. I don't have a good image of what a utopia would be. It depends on what I'm feeling. Like, sometimes I'll say a perfect utopia would be is, like, there's no death. But then, like, billions and billions of years of the same thing, and what if you get stuck in a position where you like can't move or like anything like that, like the Metallica song 1, and you can't, and that would not be good. But then again, like what if that doesn't happen, because that's an improbable thing to let happen. So like it's really hard for me to work out what for me would be a perfect society, but probably something along the lines of like an anarchy. So there's a lot of wiggle room for what would happen. Who wants to go next?
Are we doing like what I would want the government society to be, or what just my life would be? Well, my personal heaven. Because
I don't know. Because I think you could just do the second one and have it kind of combine both.
Well, I would want the government to be more. I mean, we could talk about like voting systems another day, as we keep saying we will, but we never do. but I would want us to more properly represent the people's wishes. So, like, design our government more based off of that and not people in power being voted into what people think, but actually, like, following what people want and not just what people who are voted in power who are supposed to represent what people want. That being said, I would also personally get a veto on anything because people are stupid and they don't have the right ideas about everything, unlike me. Ooh. What about you, Daniel?
My personal utopia would probably be like what I was thinking earlier is like just a bunch of clones of me. Just the entire population is just clones of me. Like, I don't know, but that's sort of what I'm seeing right now in my head, just a bunch of me's. Just, yeah.
Wouldn't that get boring after a while, hearing your own
No, it
voice
wouldn't.
back
This
at you?
reminds me of a game I played where other people had to decide what my utopia. I think it was my utopia, and I remember this. And they had decided my utopia was, it was at a summer camp, and we were still at the summer camp, except all the counselors were me, and all the campers were me, and we were not at a camp. We were on the Magic School Bus, and I was like, yeah, that was pretty great.
Okay, I have my diagram of my utopia. So, sorry, it's backwards. Utopia is in the center. It's like the sun, and then all the rays are, well, that's like the center of the sun, and then the outer layer is your growth and your relationships. And then what keeps all of this in balance is the positive and the negative charges. So so on the top and the bottom are health and challenges. And under challenges, you have sickness, you have exercise, you have discipline, and you have responsibility. So basically things to keep yourself in check so you don't get lazy and you don't get floppy. And in health, your emotional expression, plenty of opportunities, socializing. So, you're able to express yourself in social situations because when you interact with other people, you feel really good when it's a healthy interaction. And if it's not a healthy interaction, then it's a challenge and it's still good for you. And then your faith and letting go of life, because really life is outside of your control. And you should have to go with the flow and trust that things will be okay. So that's my utopia.
I have a question, sir. I have a question. One, did you think of this did you think of this and draw this before the show started? So I
just wrote it down.
No, let me finish another question. So that means that all of us are way underprepared, and none of us, we all forgot to do our homework apparently. Or two, did you draw this right now while we were all talking?
I just came up with it and wrote it down right now.
Oh, great.
Okay, so you're better than all of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't worry, guys.
I'm going to change my name to Supreme Overlord Dustin.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. Yeah. He didn't plan up ahead of time. He's just spot.
So I don't know. Everyone else wants clones, and then he's like, so I want this and this and this and this and this, and this is the center of the universe, and yeah, huh?
I want a solar system of opinions and feelings. Oh man. So I think we solved it, guys. That's the answer. Utopia, dystopia. whatever the fuck Justin says. That's the answer, right?
You need both a utopia and a dystopia, and that's the real utopia, is the dystopia.
What?
Exactly. But, like, the dystopia is really just a lack of acknowledgement of, like, life, what's actually happening in life. So then a bunch of, like, crazy stuff starts to happen, like you start to, like, repress feelings, and then you take it out on your children, and then you take it out on, and then you become an elected official, and then you take it out on, in your politics, on everyone else, and then you become the president, and then you post stupid things on Twitter and just piss everyone off.
Super depressing story.
No, but Justin, how can we stop this from happening?
By getting back on the bike and pedaling with both legs. One pedal.
Why were we trying to pedal with one leg?
Because we're stupid sometimes.
There's our problem. We're trying to pedal a bike with one leg.
Yes.
And we weren't taking the bus instead of, biking. Actually, don't take the bus, guys. It's super depressing. Everyone on the bus is super depressing. It's the fact of life.
There's an awkward silence on
Don't
every
look at
bus.
people when you're on the bus. It just depresses you.
It's kind of sketchy.
Take the subway, though. People are always nice on the subway. Oh, well. I don't know. I like it better.
Take planes.
That's my utopia. The subway's stopping, so we all have to talk to each other, and we're all like, subway, right? It's the worst. And we're just like, yeah, oh my god. And then you make friends.
Utopia, happy. And then dystopia is sad. But according to Dustin, dystopia is happy and utopia is sad?
No, you need both. You need both happiness and sadness.
So basically, what we have now is pretty good right now.
Yeah, because now we have a good balance of happiness and sadness. So,
So my chart says January is in winter and March is in spring, but September is in fall or autumn. See? I wrote this right now.
That is some very neat handwriting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess what we're saying is everything is fine right now. Don't worry about trying to change it, guys. Right now, everything is great, and just don't worry about it. Just stop worrying about it.
Yep. Just
the world.
Everything's fine. The world is great. There's no problems.
Mind.
The world's pretty united.
We have sadness and happiness, which is good. People are dying and stuff, but whatever. We have a good balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we're living in a true dystopia.
And you know what's the best? The United States. Come live in the United States. Please help.
Yes. We're the jocks of the world.
Yes.
Hear me roar. Don't watch Revenge of the Nerds. That movie is for suckers. Watch it. It's a good movie.
Okay, so we've gotten a little off topic, but yeah.
Isn't that the name of the show? A little off topic?
Yeah, actually, we should change the name. Like, instead of, hi, I'm Martin, and this is Youth on Subject of the World. No, hi, I'm Martin, and this is We Get Off Topic a Lot. So, okay, to get a little bit back on topic, in all seriousness, we do need a good balance of sadness and happiness, but what's a good balance of a good balance?
60% happiness, 40% sadness.
I'd agree with that. You need it because you need a little bit more happiness to keep you going through the sad times. You can't have 50-50 because then you're just going to be like, oh God, it's like, it's good now, but it's going to suck equally.
Maybe 65-35.
Yeah. How about we just change the news from like depressing stuff to like some depressing stuff, but like a majority of happy things.
One, that's what YouTube is.
Yeah.
And two, that's what John Oliver tries to do. He tries to entertain you while telling you about the depressing things in the world.
It's okay to share depressing things on the news, but when you're like try to instill fear in people so that it's just another form of control.
Yeah, you've got to take pictures of instead.
Plus, like, everyone on the news, like, they're not supposed to show any emotion. So they're just like 16,000 people died because of this. Now moving on. Like, it's like almost desensitizing you to violence because there's these people sitting there like, yep, this happened. It's okay, though, because, like, we're not going to show any emotion.
Yeah, like, yeah. So what a plane crashed somewhere in Uzbekistan. But over here, today's forecast is supposed to be sunny and 72 degrees. Yeah.
The news is bullshit and lies to you is the point of this episode of the podcast.
Well, no, that's the point of this, like, last 30 seconds of the podcast. Our podcasts tend to have many things that you're like, oh, yeah, when you're saying it, you're like, yeah, this will be the point of the podcast. And then, like, a minute and a half later, we're on a completely different subject that had nothing to do
I'm
with it.
just trying to find a point. It's marketable, Martin. Shut up. Let me do this. Fine. This podcast is like my hands. They got a lot of points.
But there's a limited number of points.
There's 10.
Okay, back on to topic a little bit again. So we said everyone's favorite, like, not favorite, ideas for, like, a utopia. So let's go to the complete opposite end, and what's everyone's idea for, like, their personal dystopia?
Ooh, I'll go first because I answered this question a while back. I was at this apocalypse summer camp where we all had to, and during one of the day's check-ins, we had to list it was a LARP-themed summer camp, and the theme of this one was apocalypse. And on one of the check-in days, we all, like, hung out and talked about ourselves. We said, like, our name and how we're doing, but we also said what our the worst apocalypse for us would be. And my answer was the no hope apocalypse, where something is, like, coming to destroy the world, but it's very generic and it doesn't really matter. And we could probably solve it if we tried. But the other problem is that everyone in the world just doesn't care. And they're just like, what's the point? We really can't do it. And everyone except for me has just given up already. So I'm the only one who's, like, wants to do anything. But I can't because I need their help, but they don't care. And it's super depressing.
Yeah, I thought we needed to have a horribly depressing note right after, like, the funny stuff. So I'll go next.
Okay.
Wait, Dustin, you want to go next? Okay, well, my dystopia would be everyone in the world is completely emotionless and incapable of feeling any emotion except for me, who feels all emotion and empathy and all that stuff, and no one else is there to, like, sympathize. Like there's no other person to, like, talk to or communicate with. Everyone is just, like, completely and totally out of it all the time, and there aren't really jobs or houses or anything to do because there's no emotion to inspire you to do that. So it's just kind of like a bland, like, world where people die all the time because they have no emotion to make them, like, survive. So yeah, that would be my dystopia.
I feel my dystopia would be if I had a longer life, like if I could live forever, because then there would just be no point. Like, I would just be like, oh, I can do that later. Like, I can do that 60 years from now. I don't have to do it now. But now, since we have a limited lifespan as humans, we feel the need to, like, get things done, so, like, to get what we need done. And I would feel like if I had a longer life, like if I had an infinite, well, if I could live forever, then it would just be there would just be no pressure to fix things in the world, and just I'll wait for that.
Plus everyone you know would die off.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, that if you have too much time, if there's not enough tension and there's too much slack in your life, then you'll keep putting things off. You'll keep putting things off, and then nothing will happen. And then if you were to live forever, it would be just an endless life of missed opportunity kind of thing. But on the other hand, you could live forever and have that tension in your life forever, where you do, you're getting, when I go upstairs, I get off the webcam and then I go upstairs, I could leave my dishes down here. I could be like, oh, I'll just bring them up. I'll just bring them up when I come down here next. But then if I kept doing that, they would just accumulate and accumulate. And then I'd be surrounded by crap. And
don't leave your dishes down here. You'll get ants.
I know. I'm not going to. But I know someone who is a lot like that. They do just put things off, and then they literally live in trash.
So what else can we add about dystopia versus utopia?
I think the Matrix is a really good analogy, because the dystopia, it's about Neo's awakening, and he's living in an easy life. He gets up and he does the same thing. He makes a paycheck, and then he goes back. But then he has this secret underground repressed life that he's a hacker, and he trades illegal software and that kind of thing. But then, so it's this secretive fake life almost, which a lot of people definitely do. They put on a front. They have a different face when they're really feeling something different within themselves, but they're not allowing that to be expressed in a healthy way. So basically just repression and control, and feeling like there's no way out. That's my dystopia.
Okay, well, anything else that we can talk about? So we did this. We did the bland, and then we did the super ridiculously funny, and now we just did the super horribly depressing. So what's next?
Should we go back to discussing our plan, our world middle school?
No, I think we need to leave that where we don't want to ruin it. It'll just get annoying if we continue.
If you want to watch more of kind of that middle school country thing, look up the history of the world in under 20 minutes.
By Bill Wirtz or whatever you pronounce his name. That guy is amazing.
He literally starts from the beginning, the formation of the universe.
Yes.
Leading up to the modern times, and it's he sums up what each country has done in probably a very generalized way, but it gives you this funny perspective on just how ridiculous the world has been, and the decisions that countries make.
He also did one on the history of Japan, which was hilarious. But yeah, basically Utopia and dystopia is all, like, most of us, when we were naming our dystopias and our utopias, like, they were completely different. So it's all subjective to the person. Like, Nathaniel and Arthur's utopia was similar, but, like, their dystopia was different. So, like, it's completely different for everyone. So it's like, it's kind of hard to decide what would be a definite dystopia or utopia.
So I guess my final thoughts on what a utopia is like, I hug you, you hug me, I punch you, you punch me, and it's all up.
Violence.
Well, metaphorically.
Metaphorically getting punched in the face. Anyone else have any, like, closing thoughts before we finish up?
Yeah, just dystopia is about repressing people's feelings and trying to put one person on top of the other. Utopia is about lack of judgment when it comes to your internal feelings, but also knowing what to express and what to not. And also a lot of clones of me.
I have something to ask the viewers. What do you think a utopia and a dystopia is for you?
Why have we never done that before? Yeah. Answer that question in the comments below.
Wait, we have a comments?
Sometimes.
Oh.
But it's something to think about. Talk about it with your family. What is your utopia?
Talk to those parental units that walk around. You know, those people. Yeah.
But until then, this has been Ethan, Subject to the World, and we've been talking about utopia versus dystopia. I hope you have a good night.
If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Mainstream media exists for the purposes of indoctrination and manipulation of public perception. The world of free and independent media is growing, and with the upsurge in information now available in the public domain, it has never been easier to access free and independent media. The exploration of this information resulted in an experimental project which would provide a fully supported space for researchers, whistleblowers, and seekers of all kinds to express themselves and educate the world. On the 1st of January 2015, Conscious Consumer Network was launched to the world. Nobody thought we would make it this far, but CCN is the longest running free and independent media network of its kind. CCN is a unique collaboration of hearts and souls, bringing you information from different perspectives to educate and inform. Since we started CCN, we have had only one desire: the pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world, and this has not changed. Having overcome many challenges over the last 2 years, CCN is here to stay, and we've got great things lined up for 2017. Help keep CCN on the air by supporting the 2017 Network Support Fund.